Well, next week's movie takes us on a fantasy adventure amidst the pyramids. The Rock stars in The Scorpion King. More details in just a moment. And some of the other movies coming soon on Saturday nights, Scooby-Doo and The Hulk. Coming next tonight, though, it's Millionaire.
Razor V3X sponsors ITV movies.
Hello, Moto.
From the...
That's for me, anyway. The former Conservative leader announced at the end of last week that he's standing down at the next election to spend more time with the Adams. Quit while you're ahead. It's all right. It's all right. I'm not going to hurt you. Last year, I said I owed this country everything, and I wanted to put just a little bit back. Well, that was 10 months ago. I've done my bit now. It's time to head off into the sunrise. But what will he do now? What's he going to do? I reckon he'd be great playing a villain in the next Bond film. You disappoint me, Mr. Bond. I had expected better of you. I don't expect you to laugh, Mr. Bond. I expect you to vote. Meanwhile, back at Westminster, the Loans for Honours scandal continued as the head of a company with more than £500 million in government contracts resigned after it was revealed that he'd given £1 million to Tony Blair. He resigned because he wanted to avoid any suggestion of a link between the two. Why would we think that? You cynical bastard. Yeah, I can't believe, I can't believe after 8 years of Labour government that you think that a businessman might get special treatment just because he gives me £1 million. Yeah, come on, look, he obviously did nothing wrong. Yeah? That's why he's resigned. I tell you, you laugh, but believe you me, in this government, it's when we don't resign that we're really up to something. Look, come on, I think we have to just get away from this whole idea that we were somehow trying to hide things. But that's exactly what you were doing, in secret and systematically. Well, yeah, that's why we want to get away from it. I mean, you didn't even tell John Prescott. Well, yeah, let me tell you, Jeremy, when you've been in government as long as we have, you realise that's no bad thing. But we still have a situation where the government publicly puts in place a system where donations have to be declared, then privately says to its richest supporters, look, guys, I shouldn't be telling you this, but why don't you call it a loan, right? Because that way it gets round the guidelines. Huh? We don't have to declare it. Oh, and by the way, I'm not saying the two are in any way related, but how do you like a peerage? Tony Blair's now announced his determination to change the law. We're going to add an amendment to the stable doors, brackets closing, bill that's currently on its way through Parliament, which is strange when you consider this exchange from Hansard, the official record of parliamentary proceedings, in January, 2 months ago. It's a question from Norman Baker, the Liberal Democrat, quote, to ask the Prime Minister whether he plans to A, review, and B, reform the Honours, brackets, Prevention of Abuses Act 1925. And here's Tony Blair's reply. No. Which means the only reason you're doing it now is because you've been found out. People have made comparisons with the last Conservative government.
I think that's unfair. That was a golden age. Geoffrey Archer, Jonathan Aiken, the Hamiltons. But I can't help feeling if I'd done what young Mr. Blair's been doing, I'd have been paraded round the streets of London in a tumbrel with my pants round my head.
So what are the opposition doing? Well, yeah, exactly. The Tories are keeping quiet because they were doing the same thing. Just like they can't put Blair in a blender over Iraq because they supported the war. The Tories can't do anything because they're cup-tied. Oh, yeah, having played for the government in previous rounds, they're now disqualified from turning out against them later in the tournament. But there is hope, because one thing we did find out this week is we've got a leader of the opposition who can ride a bicycle to work. Well, it's a start.
Hi, I'm David Cameron. I've been leader of the Conservative Party for about 100 days now. I've come from one of the most neglected parts of the country, here in central London, to find out how I've been doing. You know, when I was launching my party manifesto, Built to Last, did you hear about it?
Yes.
Built to Last, good. I said, look, this party voted for change, now we've got to show what that change means, not just what we're changing from, but what we're changing to. Do you know what I meant by that?
No, you tell us.
I was hoping you were going to tell me. Clean air? Good?
Yeah.
Good. Good society for everyone?
Brilliant.
Better standard of living for everyone?
Yeah.
I think we're going to get on very well. Excellent.
How would you make clean air, though?
How would I make clean air?
Yeah, what would you do to improve the environment?
Well, look, here we are in London. It's a bit dirty, isn't it? So I'd probably move out of London. That's the thing I'd do.
Yeah, but what would you say move London?
What I do to improve London?
You said you wanted to get clean air. So
I
how
did.
Would you do that?
Yeah, have you done debating before? Because you're very good at this. These are my policies. War's bad.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Poverty's sad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very much.
Environment's good.
Brilliant.
And my house is made of wood. Who's your Prime Minister?
Yes, Stoltenberg.
Pardon?
Yes, Stoltenberg.
Good. He's good? Yeah. Is he Conservative? Is he Labour?
No, he's a Labour.
He's a Socialist?
Yes.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
It's a good thing. Right, I'll be a Socialist then. Right, well look, I can't stand around here. Thank you very much indeed. You've got some herring to catch. Good to see you. You know, you're the first English people I've met. I met people from Norway, I met people from France, all over. So you're Nottingham?
Yeah.
So what, you've come down here to look for a job?
No, come down for LSE, I've got an open day today.
LSE, so what's that? Is that a drug?
London School of Economics.
Oh, it is, that's right. I've got a lot of friends who went there, you know, the ones who couldn't get into Oxford. Yeah. And how are things at school? Is it good? Who's your fag?
Who's your what, sorry?
Your fag. You know, the bloke who keeps the lavatory seat warm. The guy goes and gets your ciggies in town. Don't you have fags?
No.
Well, we'll bring those back. Honestly, that's another thing I'm very, very keen on. Honestly, a lot of dishonesty in this country. Here we are on Oxford Street. Behind me, a shop called Selfridges. You go in there, and they don't sell fridges at all.
I don't know.
You don't know your local MP?
No, I don't. No.
Well, that's what's wrong with this country. You see, people don't know.
Well, they don't make themselves known, do they?
They don't make themselves known.
No.
Well, the Liberal Democrats do. They make themselves known. They just sort of say, hello, I'm from the Liberal Democrats. Would you like to see what I've got? You know, come on, economic policy.
All
right, sorry. Not economic policy, obviously not a home fixer for you.
Law and order. We need more police on the streets. We need the Bobby on the beat again.
The Bobby on the beat. Right. How are you on invading Poland? Good thing?
Why should we invade Poland?
Well, I suppose they're invading us at the moment. Very good at building. What about culture? Good thing?
All the police are racist.
All the police are racist, right. Is that a good thing? Of course. Okay. Right, good, lovely. Give my regards to your mother.
Hello there. Have you had a loan turned down by either of the two main political parties in Britain? Were you told that because of this man and his new guidelines on secret donations that your loan was refused? Well, if you're a homeowner and would like to donate money to a political party without getting embroiled in a scandal, then why not call us here at the Liberal Democrats? We've been in the business of selling honours for nearly 90 years. But now we're a small party, with little hope of getting into power under the current system. So you can give a loan to us in the sure knowledge that there's virtually nothing we can give you in return that could constitute a conflict of interest. So don't delay. Phone 0800 Liberal today. And if a Lord answers, hang up.
You know, the whole trouble is this country is full of ghastly oiks, poking their noses into things which are no business of theirs. If I want to buy a peerage, what's it got to do with them? I don't want a whole lot of ghastly oiks rooting about in my affairs, bloody trade unions. Don't want people like John Prescott and Ian McCartney knowing what I do with my money. Every time I write a cheque, I don't tell my butler about it. I think the least I deserve is a peerage. It's not as if I actually enjoy giving money to the Labour Party. People don't seem to realise that. My wife says I'm selflessly keeping the democratic process going, but that's the sort of bilge you get when you're married to a complete bloody nincompoop. If the Labour lot weren't in government and may be able to throw a bit of influence my way, I wouldn't dream of supporting their ghastly party. I mean, I suppose people like Patricia Hewitt and David Sainsbury is all right. Basically, it is and always will be a party of ghastly oiks. Anyway, I'm not giving money to the Labour Party, I'm giving it to Tony Blair, quite a different thing. I mean, why do you think some of us wanted the loans to be confidential? Well, it's one's reputation, isn't it? After all, you don't want your name to be associated with the sort of people who flog peerages for money, do you?
By the time you watch this, I'll have delivered my 10th and last budget. During the course of those budgets, I have spoken for a total of 9 hours, 27 minutes and 12 seconds. I have delivered approximately 63,000 words, of which 10,000 were nouns, 14,200 were verbs, and 912 were the adjective prudent. Now that I've lost your attention, let me remind you that this is a budget for the future. My future. For jobs. My job. And for every single man, woman and child in this country who may be contemplating a move in a central London street in the next few months. Let's be in no doubt. The priority for this budget, and indeed for this government, is to set out our response to the biggest challenge our country faces in the next 3 years. The arrival of a new Conservative leader. In the light of this challenge, we must, as a party and as a country, adapt to new circumstances and new methods of fundraising. That is why I intend to replace the current tax regime with a system of loans. Each taxpayer will be permitted to donate amounts up to £14 million to the government, so long as that money is given in the form of a loan, which does not therefore have to be declared. Versus Berlusconi, the government may decide to treat that loan as a gift for tax purposes, which is indeed exactly what it is. In return for these permanent loans, the Prime Minister and I have decided that the names of all donors will be put forward for peerages, a maximum of 500 being drawn from a hat by television's Vernon Kay on a brand new Saturday night reality programme entitled Strictly Lord's Fever. In the meantime, anyone wishing to help alleviate the country's worsening pensions crisis should make out a cheque for £15 billion to the Disasters Emergency Committee, brackets pensions, P.O. Box 65, rising to 70, Kirkcaldy. Thank you.
Sentenced to prison, came out 30 years later, a statesman. I did that in half the time. Then again, I wasn't a terrorist. So Mandela gets made president, feted around the world, even gets a garden makeover from Alan Titchmarsh. Doesn't get any better. Last time I got a garden makeover, it was General de Chastelin and his team looking for guns. And I bet Nelson Mandela doesn't get his backside felt with rubber gloves when he arrives in America. Oh, yeah. Aye. Like I say, different strokes for different folks. Still, not that I'm complaining. If you told me 20 years ago that Martin McGuinness would be Education Minister, I'd have fallen about. See, we're not part of the problem anymore. We're part of the solution. So when your man Blair says there must be no compromise with terrorism, you'll forgive me a little smile, even with my teeth. Now he's made it illegal to glorify terrorism. What does that mean? Will you tell me? No more Guy Fawkes night? Bye-bye Easter Day parade? No more birthday concerts from Mandela? And where does that leave Hamas? Terrorist organisation, terrorist platform, elected by the Palestinian people? Are all their voters guilty of supporting terrorism? I'd like to see that arrest. Might as well put a great wall around the whole lot of them and cut off the money. They wouldn't do that, would they? So maybe you'll permit me to suggest a solution. See, you'll always get your terrorists. What you need to do is set up a regulatory body. I call it Off-Bomb. Divide the responsible terrorists from the cowboys, the good causes from the bad. And if any unregistered fly bombers blow themselves up without a license, well, they'll be in trouble. Certainly won't do it again. Is that taxi here yet?
Do you own a John Prescott? If so, you may be having trouble getting his arse into gear. To get your Prescott into gear and moving again, simply accept a lot of money from a bunch of rich businessmen. And don't tell them about it. This should get your Prescott up and running again for several days. Until Tony corners him by the photocopier and explains that it's a bit late in the day to discover your principles, and anyway, he's in it too deep now to back out. If bump starting your Prescott with sleaze foundation hospitals, alienating the unions and dismantling the welfare state fails to rectify the problem, simply return your Prescott in the jag it came in and we'll supply a full replacement or cash equivalent. Please note, John Prescott's arse is a factory-sealed unit and should not be opened or climbed inside except by qualified Labour members or the Prime Minister when he needs something doing.
Look, why, you are a senior official of the Department of Health.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you must be rather disturbed at these huge deficits the NHS seems to be running up. I mean, the hospital trust alone is supposed to be £800 million in the red, is that right?
Well, we're not complacent.
Aren't you? No.
No, and we've instructed all hospital trusts to start getting rid of their debts immediately.
Yes, and one way of doing that, which we've heard about this week, is that there are going to be new arrangements for people with heart disease and asthma, isn't that right?
Yes, yes. In the old system, people who had chronic heart disease, whenever things got really bad,
yes,
they went to hospital.
Yes.
Now they won't.
No.
And this is much better for the patient.
It is, yes.
Because you don't want to feel really bad and be in hospital at the same time. Yeah, it's just too depressing.
Depressing, yes. And this will save apparently £400 million a year, is that right?
It's not about the money.
Isn't it? What's it about then?
Well, yes. Well, it's a bit about the money.
It's a bit.
Yes, but we have insisted that the trusts do nothing that would affect the quality of services to patients.
No, but the trusts are already starting to cancel operations, to cut down staff, to close down wards, and even close down entire hospitals.
Yes, but that doesn't affect the quality of services to patients.
Yeah, doesn't it?
No, far from it. In some cases, it improves it.
Does it?
Oh, yes. Let me give you an example. MRSA.
Yes. The superbug, yes.
The superbug, yes. Now, we've highlighted the dangers of MRSA, but people have chosen to ignore it. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with them. They know how dangerous hospitals are, and yet they insist on going there.
Yes.
But, you know, if you close down a hospital, you dramatically reduce the chances of you catching that infection.
But you can't, of course, close down every hospital in the country.
No, of course not. No. No, what we're trying to do is to revolutionize the NHS by putting it on a market footing.
Yes, so hospitals have to compete with each other, is that?
Yes, because competition drives up standards.
Drives up standards, yes. But, I mean, do people actually want that? I mean, surely what people want is to have a local hospital near to them, which is roughly as good as any hospital in the country.
Well, they can't have it. No, it's too expensive.
Yes. What can they have instead?
Choice.
Choice. What exactly, what does that mean, choice?
Choice, what does it mean? It means that you don't have to go to one hospital. You can choose between 4. Now, supposing I've cut off my foot with a lawnmower.
Yes.
Now, the first thing I'd think of is where can I get this done in a way that suits me best, but doesn't impose an excessive burden on the public purse? And should I consider having it done in Hungary?
So you want to move away from one size fits all?
Yes, we're moving towards 10 sizes fits nobody.
And under your new arrangements, some treatments will be given by private companies.
Yes, and the reason for this is that the private sector is far more efficient than the NHS and much cheaper.
Yes, how much cheaper?
They charge 11% more than the NHS for doing the same operation.
Yes, that's not cheaper, that's more expensive.
But you've got to take it in context.
Yes, yes.
I mean, these people have their shareholders to pay, don't they? I mean, they're not in it for the good of their health, or anybody else's, for that matter. And it's even worse, you see, with mental illness.
Well, I was going to ask you about mental illness.
Yes, that's the worst thing of all.
Yes.
I mean, if these people with mental illnesses thought for more than a minute about it, I mean, they would realise what a burden they are on the public purse.
Yes.
I mean, mental illness has nothing to recommend it, I assure you.
Yes, you would know.
I would know. Yes. It just goes on and on and on and on without any rhyme or reason. And the patients don't enjoy having it, and the medical staff don't enjoy treating it. And, you know, if you have mental illness and you're also geriatric, I mean, there's no excuse for that. I mean, that quite literally is the economics of the madhouse.
Yes. But the NHS itself is starting to charge now, isn't it, for certain things? I mean, I think of giving an example. The Queen Charlotte's and Chelsea Hospital in London is offering a one-to-one midwife service for £4,000.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, but a one-to-one midwife service is supposed to be standard procedure.
Yes, but, you see, what we're moving towards in the health service is something akin to the aeroplane industry.
The aeroplane industry?
Yes. You see, there will be a club-class NHS where you will pay extra for something like a midwife, and the rest of the hospitals will be no frills.
No frills hospitals?
No food.
Well, that's an advantage, perhaps.
Yes. No anaesthetics.
No.
Just cheap and cheerful.
Yes. What cheap, anyway. Are there any other advantages to
yes, of course.
competition?
Far more jobs will be created.
You know, what, nurses and doctors?
Oh, no. No, we're going to get rid of those.
Yes.
No, I was thinking of jobs in marketing, consultancy, in PR, in advertising agencies, and a lot of money will be going to companies producing glossy brochures.
Which the hospitals will need, because they're competing with each other,
need.
aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. And also the public likes it.
Well, yes.
I mean, they can't get enough of advertisements coming through the door. They do get rather bored by having so many that are for double glazing and credit cards.
Yes.
And what they really want is a full-colour brochure on urinary tract infection. Dropping on their mats.
On their mats, yes. And so your feeling is that if you institute all these measures, then you will you'll see these deficits disappear.
Well, in time, yes. Although we're quite keen on the deficits.
You're keen on them?
Yes.
Want to keep them?
Well, at the moment, they're rather useful.
Are they?
Because if we can persuade people that the NHS is wasting millions of pounds of public money, then they will accept that the only answer is privatization.
Yeah. Good, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is France, 1944. And this is Iraq, 2003. Notice a similarity. That's right, both are happy, grateful, carefree, delighted to have us around. But wait a second. Unlike post-war France, Iraq has turned violent and nasty. Why is that? That's a question we here at the American military have pondered long and hard. But now we have an answer. The Iraqis just aren't like the French, which is a pity. That's why over the next few months, we'll be launching Operation Ooh La La. Military transport planes will drop thousands of tons of French sticks and freshly baked madeleines over occupied Iraq. Onions, bicycles, berries, and hooped bread on jerseys will be airlifted into Fallujah. Yes, from next month, it's out with the old and in with La Belle Epoque in Baghdad-sur-Mer as we raise the curtain on Operation Enduring Ooh La La.
Yes, great news in the cricket this week when England managed to beat India. Or to be strictly accurate, India were beaten by England's reserve 11. Missing no fewer than 5 of the side that won the Ashes and a 6th player who made 100 and a 50 in the previous Test match. Well, he's already been made an MBE. He's just become a father again. What greater honour can there be for Freddie Flintoff? I've given Andrew Flintstone supreme command of British forces in southern Iraq with immediate effect. Right, meanwhile, the Commonwealth Games keep sporting interest going, notably for the large amount of medals we seem to pick up when the other countries aren't around. Next year, hoping to host the British Games, with excellent prospects of at least 30 goals for England, 23 for Scotland, and another chance for that Welshman in plaster to go for gold in the pole vault. There. The real inspiration in the games, though, has been Dean Macy. You heard of him? Dean Macy, who came through a series of debilitating injuries to become the Commonwealth's undisputed decathlon champion of the world. Well, amazing performance, you have to say, fighting through the pain barrier. In the javelin, he actually forgot to let go of the spear and threw his entire arm 50 metres. In the hurdles, he caught his ankle on the second flight, leaving his leg a tangled mess of bone and ligament. Looked good in long jump until a freak landing on a mine, which actually blew him to pieces, forcing him to sit out the 800 metres. But still, Macy managed to patch himself up and recover before accidentally swallowing the shot, particularly frustrating as his coach had specifically told him not to because it does make it harder to get off the ground in the pole vault. And then in the high jump, he got his takeoff wrong and had his head sheared clean off by the bar. But it takes more than that to defeat Dean Macy, who's vowed to come back from what to many lesser athletes could only be described as a career-threatening death.
Our brother, who art in power, absent be thy shame. Our lordship comes, we'll join our chums in mirth as we sit in ermine. Give us this day our robes of red, and forgive us our S-classes. As we forgive those who use their press pass against us, treat our loan as a donation, and deliver us from levy. For thine is the patronage, power and glory, forever, whatever. Amen. Car sharing lanes coming to your area and no one to team up with? At Albanians Are Us, we have a large supply of Albanian nationals, ideal for just such an occasion. Easy to fit. Simply remove your Albanian from the packaging, open the passenger door or sunroof and install in seconds. Comes complete with special adapter kit, featuring school uniform and cap. Ideal for family bays at the local supermarket. Or disabled model, allowing use of thousands of restricted parking spaces in town. Plus, when you sign up for your Albanian car buddy, you qualify for our unique gold service, giving you instant access to unlimited cheap crack cocaine and a wide range of Eastern European prostitutes, many under 50. 3 introductory offer. If after 21 days you are not entirely satisfied with your Albanian, simply contact us and we will immediately send 3 of his mates round in a black BMW with tinted windows to discuss your complaint. Albanians Are Us. Text Surfs Up today and leave the rest to us.
Ah, there you are. At the risk of sounding too forward, I'm Alistair Darling. Half Transport Secretary, half barn owl. Just thought I'd take the opportunity to tell you what's been going on in my neck of the woods while I'm out looking for a nice, fat, juicy vole for my supper. Quite a hoot, this job. Always something happening. Need eyes in the back of your head. Fact is, it all seemed pretty straightforward when number 10 called. We need someone with a half-decent news story to take the heat off the Prime Minister, they said. So next morning, here I am, up with the lark, nice chap, lives on the same branch, hard hat on, perched on a motorway bridge, overlooking a spanking new multi-occupancy car lane. Live interview with regional news, podcast on the departmental website. Hardly scoop of the year, but that's the conundrum here in transport. Trumpet one achievement like our huge investment in railways, and some hack cries out, "Ah yes, but what about your failure to reach congestion targets?" "Look at the buses, hundreds of them," I hoot. "So why don't you tax cars more?" they counter. Which is why I was just a little nervous hyping this car lane business, in case some bright spark mentioned air travel. And, oh, look, a field mouse. Damn, you're still there. See, it's all very well rattling on about the environmental benefits of 1.5 miles of tarted-up tarmac. But I've also overseen this country's greatest ever increase in air travel. What to do? Woo! Well, not much I can do. It's a European issue now. Or rather, under an agreement just going through, and you won't have seen this unless you've got eyes like mine. It's an American issue, since we now have to get approval from the Americans if we want to restrict our air traffic. What to do? Woohoo! Meantime, 1/5 of all international passengers now fly from UK airports. But on the other hand, high-occupancy car lanes reduce journey time from Leeds to Cleckheaton by up to 10 minutes. Woo! We'll have 500 million air passengers a year by 2030, and another car-sharing lane in Manchester. Still, I've done my bit. Can't have folks saying I didn't try, and at least the loans for peerages business stopped too many awkward questions round my patch. Right, fetch the ketchup. Just seen something move in the grass.
I am so sorry about this meal.
Yes. No worries.
No, it's terrible. There is no main course for a reason. I know, but bread and cheese. I'm mortified. I am absolutely. And we did have a main course. Mark was good enough to employ the services of a cook.
Yes. Oh, very good.
But she was a young, uppity miss, opinionated, and...
But that isn't why I employed her, darling. I employed her because you're such a terrible cook. I mean,
Well-
that's the bottom line.
I'm sure you're not.
But I thought that it was all solved because we had this girl in. Well, to listen to the lecture about how many years she'd studied this, that, the other. To cut a long story very short, it ended in an unseemly row, and she threw the rule out at the wall.
At the right of the wall.
I lament the fact that, you know, in Edwardian times, for example, I mean, it was every normal middle-class family had servants. I lament it so much.
Live-in servants.
Live-in servants. You know, it was no big deal. You never had to cook and clean and things like that.
No, and also, in Edwardian households, there were these, what were they called, the maids? The
Tweeny maids.
Tweeny maids.
Tweeny maids, yes. Oh, and little caps.
Little caps, and when they met you in the corridor, they'd curtsy and, you know. And apart from laying the fires, they also had another role, which was to introduce the young men of the house into the mysteries of sex.
Exactly, so they multitasked. The birds multitasked.
The thing about all these people, I mean, they're not servants, are they? They're not staff. They're the experts. They're
Oh, yeah, look at the cook.
the cook, the roulade against the wall.
You can't boss these people around. You know, you can't even ask them to do anything. I mean, they're telling you what to do.
Yes,
It's
the British really don't want to be servants.
They don't.
They don't have
They
the
hate.
mindset.
They hate
for
being
it.
servants.
And nowadays, of course, they're not civil.
No.
They say F every other
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
They say, you know, if you want your lavatory
Yes.
unblocked, you better do it yourself.
No, I couldn't
That's
agree
the
with
kind
you.
of
I know,
attitude.
it's disgusting. You see, in Victorian times, these middle-class families, if they fell on hard times, for example, they could send one of their girls into service, and you know that she'd be nice and well-bred and well-mannered.
Yes.
I mean, now these days, you don't get that. They're all chavs. They swear all the time. They're binge drinking all the time.
Vomit in the gutter.
Vomiting all the time.
Yes.
They fiddle the welfare state. They're wily, and they know how to buck the system, and they know the rules, so they get lippy, and they go, I don't do toilets. I don't do cobwebs. I don't stand on step ladders. I don't stretch.
No.
I mean, what's the point of having a cleaner when they're laying down those sorts of rules?
Absolutely intolerable.
Intolerable.
I had a plumber. I called him to the house, and he said, I make this clear, I don't do shit. Exactly. It's like Plato saying, I don't do philosophy. Sorry.
But what is the answer? What are we to do about this? Who can we get?
I know.
Eastern Europeans is the one.
The Poles?
The Poles.
Oh, they will
Poles
do
are very,
anything
very good.
for
They'll
you.
do it.
Absolutely anything.
The only thing about that is you have to be careful because some of them are overqualified. You know, we had this man come to do gravel our drive. Very nice man, sort of 40 years old, but it turns out he'd been professor of economics at Krakow University.
Really?
Well, it's fascinating. We used to sit and have very interesting conversations about, you know, reorganisation of the World Bank. But on the other hand, he didn't get much gravelling done.
This is the problem, though, Matthew. I told you at the time, you shouldn't have been intimidated by him.
Well...
And if they're very easy to employ, the Poles. You just have to absolutely make sure they can't speak English. Those are the ground
Then
rules.
how do you communicate?
Yes, that's the problem. Are you going to run around with a phrase book or just reading from the phrase
Facebook,
it's confusing.
I mean, I've seen these praise books.
I mean, it wouldn't be in the praise book, would it?
They wouldn't. It would just say, could you show me the way to the Chopin Museum?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, these sausages are inedible.
One of the advantages of employing Estonians and Poles and so on is they're not black. I mean, not that I've got anything against black people, but I mean, you don't have that sense of guilt.
No, you don't have
black
the guilt,
people around.
and they don't suck their teeth, and they don't play hip-hop in the kitchen.
When you talk about having services, but the Georgians, some of the Victorians, I mean, when they built houses, they built them knowing that the people they're going to live there are going to have servants. So they have the little pokey rooms on the top floor. All our little pokey rooms have been knocked through, and they're all now storage for Lucy's shoes.
So shoes, and like, you know, I have to have a dressing area.
So where do you put your?
Well, I think it only needs ingenuity, doesn't it? And a good, architect. In the war, people used to have Anderson shelters in their gardens in case the Luftwaffe came over and dropped bombs. The Poles could live in one of those.
They would love it. Compared to Poland, they would be so grateful.
And if the Luftwaffe came along, they'd remember that from their experiences during later.
Isn't that really why we must love Europe and embrace it? I mean, being European now as we are, we can have that. The possibility is there that we could have that system, and that is what I love Europe for.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
Let's drink to Europe.
Yes,
to Europe.
Eastern Europe in the garden.
Europe, absolutely.
Well, the beginning of the week saw the Queen in Australia and Singapore. Oh, always nice to get away. Back now, though. Only allowed a certain number of days out of the country for tax reasons. So it was either that or sell Andrew. Well, that's a non-starter. I had him on eBay for 6 months last year. The only bid I got was from the Royal and Ancient, who wanted to have him stuffed and mounted in the members' bar. But I sometimes wonder if I've come home to the same country. After all, they banned hunting, they banned smoking. If you're a beagle, you've got few pleasures left. One change taking place is the Police and Justice Bill, currently going through the House, which effectively allows the police to criminalise anyone who they think might be guilty of something, but where they don't have enough evidence for a trial.
So, so how are the government doing this? By A, introducing curfews. Could it be B, tagging people before they're charged? Is it C, farming out police work to other individuals? Or could it be D, all of the above?
Easy question, really, as the answer's all of them, which is quite a change in the criminal justice system. Welcome back to Crime Watch Update, where we really have had some amazing developments. This week I'll be examining the ramifications of the Police and Justice Bill, while Fiona will be giving us her own special version of the Peters and Lee classic, Welcome Home. First, though, I'm joined in the studio by Home Secretary Charles Clarke. Now, I understand you've brought some law enforcement officers with you. Is this a police officer? No, he's a trading standards officer. You'd be forgiven for thinking he's a policeman, because under our new proposals, he'll be able to impose on-the-spot fines and penalty notices. OK, and what about the bloke behind you with the notebook? That's not a notebook, it's a rent book. Once again, under the new law, social landlords will have similar powers to the police in that he or she, there's no reason why it shouldn't be a man, will be able, the social landlords will be able to issue parenting orders. So is there anyone from the police with any real authority? Well, you could speak to Sir Ian Blair, but I'd rather you didn't. You see, under the terms of the bill and our proposals, it will actually be possible for the government to bypass the police and run things directly ourselves. But I want to reassure people that we would only do that under exceptional circumstances, and I think people know by now that you can trust us. But this is a phenomenal increase in police powers. Well, I wouldn't go that far. Well, obviously I have, but what I actually mean is that I wouldn't actually use those words. Because while it does significantly increase police powers, it also takes a proportion of those powers away and gives them to the other people that I mentioned. Yes, so in future, the Prime Minister can get on the blower to any Tom, Dick or Silvio and say, listen, I don't like the look of that bloke. And that man can then be threatened with an ASBO, tagged, forced to put up bail all before he's charged, and if he objects, he can be arrested and jailed without the bother of a trial. Yeah, that's about it.
They had a kind of genius